Hi everyone, and welcome to this quick demo of the Native Instruments Komplete Kontrol Mark II keyboard. In this project I've got a few tracks with empty instances of Komplete Kontrol loaded into them, and I'm just going to show you how intuitive it is to get your creative ideas down really quickly with the Komplete Kontrol. So to start with, I'm just going to load in a drum kit and we'll go for Abbey Road 80s drummer. And what I like about this is we've got velocity sensitive drums, and if we don't want the velocity sensitive drums, so just so you can hear, what we can do is we can turn fixed velocity on, and that means no matter how hard we play, it's all going to be the same velocity. So let's just record some drums in now. And now that's playing itself back, and we can hear that our timing wasn't quite perfect, and if we look in the clip we can see that we need to nudge these by using the quantise button onto the 16th note grid. So now let's overdub this with some more drum parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take fixed velocity off so we can get some velocity changes in there, and I'm going to hit record again, but we're going to slow the tempo right down just so it's a little bit easier to play things in. So now I just press record and then play in some hats. Just tap these in and then hit record again, and then we can quantise those as well if we wish. Now let's navigate through the project to the bass, and we can do that using the 4-way encoder, and notice how the VST and the record arm updates as we move through. And then we can just use this smart browser, so we can go to sampled instruments, we can then go to retro machines, we can filter by the type, we'll go for bass, and then we can just flick through auditioning these presets till we find one that we like. And then all we have to do is hit load, it loads straight away, and then we can modify this bass sound using the native map at the top here. So we've got pages upon pages to flick through, and we'll just make this sound our own. So I'm going to make it a little bit fatter, add a little bit of reverb, and I could do this with the scale function, but I'm just going to turn chord on, just make it sound a little bit more interesting. By pressing mixer I can quickly turn it down, either using the rotary encoder or the encoder underneath the given track, or I can use shift and I can do this in smaller increments as well. So we'll just turn it down a bit and then go back into the plugin. By pressing shift and scale we can edit what scale we're working with, which is really good if you want to stay creative but you don't necessarily know all of your scales, or your fingering isn't quite right and you might hit the wrong note. So now we're in G minor, so we can play in a bass part nice and slow time and then speed it up again later. Okay, so now that we've got our bass part in place, I'm just going to stop that there, and we can move across to the next track using the encoder. So now we're working on our lead, we can hit browse and we can just filter through until we find the sound we're after. And as you can see here, we've got loads of libraries from third parties, so things like Arturia and any other NKS products are going to be within this library, and they're also going to have their preview sounds as well. So we can just use this endless encoder to make our way through FM8. We can load a sound in, have a little play around with it, and if we don't like it we can just hit next preset until we find what we want. So we'll work with this. I'm going to put it into G minor so it fits with the rest of the project, and I'm also going to harmonise this as well with a triad chord. That's sounding a little bit more rich. So now let's just add in a lead part. Okay, so you might have noticed there the timing of one of those notes was a little bit off. So we've got a few different options. We could either press undo underneath the shift parameter and just re-record the whole thing again, or we could overdub this and we could just add in the notes that we missed out. Or in this case, because I've only got one note out of time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nudge it in place manually, just so I don't have to re-record the entire phrase. Okay, so now that we have our lead in place, we can just nudge across to our next track, which is the strings, press browse, and we can find a suitable string sound. So using the filters, I'm going to go to sampled instruments, and then I'm going to just browse through and I'm going to go for session strings. So we'll go for some violas, hit load, and you can hear we've got our strings in there now. So we know we're going to be in G minor, so I'm just going to use the smartplay scale function to set G minor straight away. And what we can do is we can harmonise this as well. And because it's instant, we can preview this just by flicking through the rotary encoder. So that third sounds quite nice. Then what we can do is we can either go octave down or up, or semitone down and up using the shift and octave buttons. And as you can see here, we've got our red light guide, which we can use to change the performance of our strings. So you can hear we've got a bit of a tremolo there. And on top of that, we also have our mod wheel, pitch bend, and assignable touch strip as well. So at the moment, this is assigned to the volume. So I'm just going to turn that up so we can hear what we're doing. And we're just going to play something in, which is nice and simple to go with what we've made so far. Okay, so now that we've got the bulk of the idea down and we're not really going to be playing much more in, I'm going to just change this back to about 110 beats per minute, and I'm going to spend a bit of time building this into an arrangement within session view, and then what we can do is add some automation and maybe a few other parts and do a little bit of live mixing. Okay, so all I've done is I've built out a little arrangement in session view, and I've also added in another set of strings in a staccato playing style. And what we're going to do is we're going to launch one of these scenes and we're going to add in some automation to the bass. So I'll just navigate to the bass track. Automation is already on, so all I have to do is press record arm and twist the knobs that I want to automate. And we can also assign some more controls if we don't have anything that we want to automate within this plugin, but in this case Native Map does a brilliant job of mapping the retro machine, so I've got all the parameters I could possibly need to automate. So if you look in the bottom left, you can see the red automation nodes letting us know that we've got automation. And then as soon as we're done, all we have to do is turn automation off. And that's now recorded into our clip. And then if we want to add some more in, we just hit automation again and carry on twisting. And then just turn it back off again. We'll just stop that there. And now that we've added in that bass automation, we can move over to our master channel and just play through our scenes and see how all the transitions sound from each scene to the next. And while I'm playing these back, what we can also do is go into mixer mode, maybe adjust the levels, adjust the panning, and if we really wanted to, we could also automate these parameters as well. But in this case, I want to keep these as static positions, so I'm not going to automate them. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to adjust these settings on the fly whilst also triggering the different scenes. So you could use this quite easily in a live performance, not only for triggering the different clips within the actual session view for each individual track, but also on a scene level whilst mixing as well. And then further to that, don't forget you've also got the use of the mute and solo buttons as well for any of the individual channels. So in this video, we've managed to get this creative idea down into an arrangement in the best part of about 8 minutes, and we haven't been limited to how well I can play or how well I know my music theory or my scales or my chords. I'm still able to get the creative idea out of my head and into the DAW really fast and be able to choose a great amount of different sounds. On top of that, there's also a lot of power with being able to mix on the fly within the DAW and also launch these clips straight from the keyboard hardware as well. So it really is a brilliant bit of hardware and well worth integrating into your studio setup.